We all know every big company has a CEO calling the shots. But have you ever stopped to think, who's the CEO of your body? Well, we're going to find out. And trust me, the answer is not what you think. It's way, way smaller than you can possibly imagine. Let's dive in. So let me ask you, who's in charge? What's your first guess? The brain, right? And hey, that's a great guess. The brain is definitely the chairman of the board, setting the big picture strategy. But the day-to-day, moment-to-moment operational decisions? Nope. That's handled by someone else entirely. The real CEO is a tiny, pea-sized gland. And what it does is coordinate this incredibly complex, totally silent messaging service that runs your entire body. We're talking about the endocrine system, which is kind of like your body's own internal internet. It doesn't use Wi-Fi, though. Its data packets are these powerful little chemical messengers. Okay, so to really get a handle on this CEO, we've got to understand the language it speaks. And the language of the endocrine system, it's all about hormones. These are the body's chemical messengers. So what is a hormone, really? Well, the classic definition is actually pretty simple and elegant. It's basically any chemical that's made by one group of cells, gets dumped into the bloodstream, and then travels to affect a different group of cells somewhere else. You can think of it like sending a memo to a specific department in a huge company. The bloodstream is the mailroom, and the hormone is the message. But here's the thing. Not all these messages are created equal. They come in a few different chemical flavors, you could say. You've got your peptides and proteins, your steroids, and your amino acid derivatives. And this isn't just some boring chemistry detail. It's everything. Their chemical makeup is the difference between, say, a text message and a physical key. It totally changes how the message is delivered and received. So that brings us to the million-dollar question. How do the cells actually read these messages? Well, it all comes down to the type of hormone that's knocking on the door. And they've got two main strategies. On one hand, you have the protein hormones. These guys are kind of big and bulky, so they can't just walk into the cell. Instead, they ring the doorbell. They bind to a receptor on the outside surface, and the message gets passed along from there. But then, you've got the steroid hormones. These are the secret agents. They're smaller, and they're made of the right stuff to just slip right through the cell membrane. They have an all-access pass. And check out this inside job that the steroid hormones pull off. Once they're inside, they don't just wander around. They have a mission. They find a specific receptor waiting for them, link up, and this new power duo travels straight into the nucleus, the cell's command center. And there, it binds directly to your DNA and starts flipping switches, turning certain genes on. It's literally giving a direct order to change what the cell is doing, right from the source code. All right, so we've got the basics of the language, hormones. Now it's time to meet the one speaking it. Let's finally meet the CEO, the master controller of this whole incredible system. Get ready for this. The gland that runs almost every major function in your body weighs, on average, 0.5 gram. That's less than a single paperclip. Think about that. The sheer disconnect between its tiny size and its immense power is just mind-blowing. We are, of course, talking about the pituitary gland, and it has absolutely earned its nickname, the master gland. Why? Because it's the one telling almost all the other glands what to do and when to do it. So where is this little powerhouse hiding? It's nestled right at the base of your brain, kind of dangling from another part called the hypothalamus. And it's split into two main parts, the anterior and posterior lobes. Now, we're going to focus on the anterior lobe, because that's the real command center. It's the factory floor where all the most important orders are produced. So, what kind of tools does this master gland have in its toolkit? Let's take a look at the actual hormones it sends out, the specific commands that keep this whole massive corporation of your body running like a well-oiled machine. This chart lays it out so clearly. You see, the pituitary makes what are called trophic hormones, which is just a fancy way of saying they are marching orders for other glands. For instance, it shoots out growth hormone to tell your bones and muscles to grow. It sends out thyroid-stimulating hormone to tell your thyroid how to manage your body's energy. ACTH, that's the signal for your adrenal glands to kick in and handle stress. And the gonadotrophins, FSH and LH, well, they run your entire reproductive show. The scope of its control is just staggering. And this is the absolute key takeaway. The pituitary isn't just sending out its own messages, it's a manager of managers. It's releasing hormones that control other hormone-producing glands. It tells the thyroid, the adrenals, the gonads when to get to work and how hard to push.
That's why we call it the master gland.
But what happens when the master controller goes haywire? When something goes wrong in this tiny half a gram command center, the consequences can be absolutely catastrophic for the entire body. Yeah, pituitary problems usually fall into one of two buckets. You can have hyperactivity, where it's working overtime, just pumping out way too much of a hormone. That's often caused by a tumor. It's like the signal is stuck on full blast. Or you can have the opposite problem, hypoactivity. The gland just isn't producing enough, maybe because it's starting to break down. And that means a critical shortage of essential commands. To really understand how devastating this can be, let's open up a case file. We're going to look at what happens with hypoactivity in adults. The condition is called Simmons disease. Simmons disease is basically what happens when the lights on the factory floor go out for good. The anterior pituitary just stops working. Its commands go silent. And without those marching orders, the body's other systems just grind to a halt. You see severe weight loss because the thyroid and adrenal glands have gone offline. The reproductive system breaks down because the gonadotrophin signals are gone. It is a total, devastating, system-wide failure. It's exactly what happens when the CEO just walks off the job. And that really brings us to the core of it all. You know, from our first moments to our very last, these glands have a profound influence on pretty much everything: our bodies, our minds, even our behavior. So, in the end, you can think of your health as this incredibly delicate chemical symphony. All these different hormones are the instruments, playing their parts in perfect time. And right there in the middle, on the podium, is the pituitary gland, the conductor. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What does it really take to keep that conductor healthy?